Hi, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and today I'm going to start a new, what I think is going to be series of videos on repairing a 3D printer. I recently became aware that, particularly through eBay and then on Congro's website, you can buy an unrepaired Creality printer relatively cheaply. When I went and started investigating this again, I found on Congro's website, in a lot of cases, these printers are used printers that are returns from Amazon that haven't been fixed or refurbished. Basically, you get it's as is, there's no returns. And so I decided to go on eBay and buy one. In my case, what I did was I searched on eBay and I found an Ender 3 V2 Neo that was unrepaired, and they accepted best offer. So for $130, and that includes tax, I got an Ender 3 V2 Neo. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to start working on this printer. We'll get it back to working, hopefully. And then I'll let you know, we'll do some upgrades. We'll talk about whether I think it was worth it or not. See what it takes to actually repair, what the problems were, and what I found. Now, each situation with these unrepaired printers would be unique. But again, if you're like me and you're into taking the printers apart, putting them back together, doing upgrades, might be a really good option. Just looking here on Creality, here's one on eBay. Here's an Ender 3 V2 that's sold as is for $98, and they accept best offer. So probably we can get this pretty cheap. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've not even opened this printer up yet. So here's my Ender 3 V2 Neo. And I think the difference of the Neo from the Ender 3 V2, just regular edition, is this comes with the CR Touch. So let's go ahead and open this up and see what she looks like. I'm going to apologize. I don't have very good workspace for this. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up. Appears to be packed pretty good, so that's good. Let me fold everything back here. So it's packed good, and for me that's a good sign, because if I don't keep this printer, I'll probably wind up selling it. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this aside. Looks like I opened this up upside down, so that's not good. Let's look at this. Let's set this right here. Everything's looking all right. Now it looks like, just looking at the bed, maybe it's been used a little bit. Now, first thing I'm seeing is we have a massive clog here. So that's actually okay. So maybe the main problem with this printer is we have a clog that somebody couldn't take care of. So like I said, you can see how that looks. So let's put this aside. Now, some things I'm noticing here is, you notice we have some screws here just floating around. So that's a bit of an issue. And looks like we don't have, well, wait, this might have a drawer on it. So a drawer. It does not look like it came with the parts, but I do have the screws here. And these look like the gantry screws. We'll put them aside. Let me get my screw dish here, and I'll put that over here. I'm going to apologize if you hear my dog in the background. She had to be in here with me as I'm doing this. Okay, what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the box outside my office, so I'll be right back, and then we'll take a look at what all we have. Okay, so I have everything unpacked. I have a printer here on my desk. Now, just a couple observations. We do have the cords. I have at least some screws here, so that's good. I think I'm missing screws to put on the put on the spool, but again, that's not a big deal. I can find extra screws there. The big broken bit I'm finding is I have a massive clog. I'm not too worried about that. I will just observationally point out that I don't have instructions here to put this together. For me, that's not a big deal, but for other people, that might be a bit of a deal breaker. There's no tools with it, which I think with this printer should be like the scraper, Allen wrenches, and probably some extra nozzles. So they're not here, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by looking up and see if I can find the instructions for this printer on Creality's website. So let's see if we can find the instructions. And then let's go ahead and start putting it together. And then once we've put it together, we can try to figure out, okay, what is broken, what's not working correctly, and see if we can, again, get everything going and really get this all put together. So I've gone ahead and found some over on manualslib.com for the Ender 3 V2 Neo. And we'll go over what parts we're missing here. So it looks like we're missing, there's 5 of these screws here, and I only see 2. So let's look at the bottom here. So it looks like I'll have to find some replacement screws for the gantry. And then the other thing we're missing is, again, just some of the tools, but I think that's okay. All the major parts, we have the frame, we have the gantry, we have the filament spool holder and the display. All those are here. And so let's go ahead and start putting this together. Now, noticing right now on the gantry, I'm missing these. I only have 2 of the 4 screws that are needed. Going back, those are M545 screws with a washer. So let's go ahead and see if I have those in stock here. That'll be a little bit of a deal breaker if I can't find any, but worst case, I can go to Lowe's and probably buy some. So I don't have M545s, but I do have M550s. And these are left over from my Mercury 1 build. So I'm going to attempt to use these. If these work, I'll go ahead and put links for Amazon so you can get them if you need them. Like I said, I think these were more like $5-10 for a pack of 25. So I have plenty. So let's try these, see if these work. So I'm going to try to do this by myself. So I have the gantry sort of sticking up here. And then what I'm going to do is I hang the end off here. And then I'm just going to come up from the bottom. Now, I've tested these M550s, and they should actually be fine. I have plenty of space, so this should work well. Oops. Like I said, usually what I do is I just let the printer hang off the edge of the table and just get underneath and sort of make sure everything looks straight. If I could stop dropping the Allen wrench, that would be excellent though. So I have the first screw in. Let's move this over a little bit more. So like I said, I'm just tightening these screws in these M550s. As far as I can tell, are working fine. You know, what I should have checked was, yeah, I'm putting the gantry on the correct direction. It's been embarrassing for not doing that right. Now, okay, so I have this side in, so now I just need to rotate the printer around and do the other side. Okay, so I've rotated the printer around, and now I'm just putting the screws in here in the bottom. Like I said, this appears to be working really well. Now, since I'm doing the M550s, should actually give me a little bit more support through here than the 45s. So let's get this all tightened up. Now, so far, I'm pretty pleased with the way this printer's at least looking. I think it's not having the tools is a problem. But I mean, this is well worth it to me because I really enjoy taking these apart and putting them together. Like I said, if I got this for $130 with tax, I have the box and everything, so I should be able to just sell this if I want. I wouldn't mind getting my money back and then probably buying another to repair. Now this looks all pretty secure. Pretty pleased with it. That looks nice and stiff. It actually feels like it's moving good. So let's go ahead and set this up. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and well, let me get I'll install the display, and then we'll turn it on and see where we're at. It's really hard to see here, but these are bent. So let's see if we can figure out how to move those around to get them straight. I'm not sure this is going to work well. Like I said, I may have to replace the stepper motor, but let's just give this a go. So what I'm doing is just gently pushing these back straight. Let me get my flashlight in here, see if I can see, because I think I have one more messed up. Yeah, I do. Let's see if I can get this. I have two crossed here. It's a little difficult. Like I said, I could probably replace this motor, but I want to try to salvage it. Like I said, just trying to push these all into place, get them reasonably straight. Let's see if I can actually insert this now. Oop. Let's try moving these around a little bit more. Again, I don't want to, if I can salvage everything, cool. If not, again, whoever did this really did a number on these. Again, this probably comes from trying to force everything. But I said, I think Let's see. Those almost look straight now. There we go. So that actually looks like it went in properly. Now what I'm going to do is take it out and put it back in, just make sure everything looks straight still. Just want to make sure I didn't flatten it. So that actually looks like that's in there correctly now. So what I'm going to do is rearrange my cameras, rotate the printer, and then we'll go ahead and install the display. Now, I should point out what I used to fix this was I just used a really tiny flathead screwdriver and then just rearrange the pins. Now, hopefully the motor's not damaged. If it is, I can replace it. That's an easy fix. And I may even have several of these motors around, so I won't have to order anything. Let's flip her around and let's see what we got. So I've switched back around to my tripod view. And what I need to do is loosen up screws a little bit on the, I have T nuts here. Those will need to be loosened a little bit. And let me go ahead and get a driver so I can actually tighten these. So give me a second. So I've gone ahead and put the printer on its side and slip the T-nuts are in the grooves. So I'm just going to tighten this up. I've taken the screen off the holder. So that way I can, it's a little bit easier to move around. So I have this secured nice and tight. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the pins in here. They're all looking good. And let's go ahead and insert the screen and put that in our holder. So that's all good. Now, check the back. We're on 115, so that's correct. So set the printer up. I have the cord, and so let's go ahead and do the moment of truth. And go ahead and so I have everything plugged in. Everything looks okay. Let's go ahead and turn her on. So we just got a check from the CR Touch, so that's good. The screen is on. I'm getting a reading from both the hot end and the bed, so that's good. Let's try doing some movements here. And this is a touch screen, I have to remember that. Now what I'm going to do, I guess first thing is I'm going to go ahead and reset the configuration. That way I know that way in case anything was set on here, I'm good to go. So I've gone ahead and reset everything. Also want to check the info. So we're using Creality software. Probably, if I can get everything working, I'm going to switch over to the professional firmware for the Ender 3 V2. So let's go ahead and just try some movements. So the X end stops working, Y end stops working. Z, which I had to bend back in place, is working. So the Z stepper is going. The CR Touch is deployed. So I want to apologize. I started that way up at the top so I could see everything. So it looks like okay. So we have our first problem. And stop this. CR touch is not low enough. So we'll have to figure that out, but that's really not that big a deal. So CR touch, it seems to be mounted too high. So I guess I'm going to have to figure that out. So let's move this up. So I'm a little confused as to why that's too high. Let me see if I can go ahead and run some tests on this. So I'm not sure. Let's see if, so I'm going to bed leveling. I want to, okay, part of my problem is this melt is all in the way here. Okay, so let's, well, wait, let's do this. So what I'm going to do is just hold my hand under here and just make sure the CR touch is working. But I think I'm going to have to clean out the nozzle, because that looks to be a mess. And it looks like I actually have plastic down there. So let's, okay, so the CR touch does appear to be working, so that's good. So let's go ahead and just stop everything. And what we're going to do is I'm going to figure out how this housing comes on and off. And I'm also noticing that the print head is loose. So there's concentric nut back here. We're going to tighten that. And also same with the bed. So if somebody had this, particularly if they didn't know what they were doing, having a loose bed would make leveling a pain in the butt. And then however they have the hot end here, with all that melt on it, it's really hard to do anything. So let's go ahead. Again, I apologize, get my big head in the way. Okay, and that's interesting, the screw's back here. So what I'm going to do is let's take this print head off and take a look at what we got. Before I start removing the shroud, I went ahead and unplugged everything. That way I don't have to worry about shocking myself. So let's go ahead and get this screw out. Put it over my cup. The whole assembly off. What I'm going to have to do is really break this. But this is really snaps in, and it's really hard to get off. Oh, there we go. Okay, I've gotten that off. We can see now my really massive clog here. Really, really, really massive clog. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and unplug the CR touch, and I'm going to take that off so I don't mess that up. So I'll go ahead and remove that. Now I don't have a spare hot end for this printer. So that's a bit of a problem. So what I'm going to try to do is clean all this crap off, see where that puts me. Now, I'm going to have to be really, really careful with this because I don't want to burn myself. Now, it sort of looks like maybe the whole assembly here is bent. I mean, I can't tell. I mean, that is so much filament. Okay, so let's do this. Let's switch over to the screen. I'm going to go ahead and plug this back in. And let's see if we can clean off some of this filament. what I'm going to do is bump this up to about 220. And let's see what that does. Now, this is heating up, so I'm going to pause it, wait till I get to 220, and then come back. I'm approaching 220. And one thing I want to point out here is the shroud fan is working. And I'm going to start pulling at this. I'm using my fingers. Let's stop that. Let's go over here to my pliers. And let's see if we can pull some stuff off here. Now, what I'm seeing is thermistor wires buried. So let's see if I can cut that out without cutting the wire. Okay, we got a big hunk off here. Like I said, this is probably the worst clog I've seen. I mean, this is even going up the front. Wow. So I'm trying to pull all this through. So I've switched over and grabbed some forceps so I can try to reach in here and pull stuff out. I'm trying to be gentle. I'm not ripping wires. Like I said, I don't have a replacement. I'm sure I could buy one for a couple bucks on Amazon. But I really want to try to get most of this working today. I said this is sort of funny because this is a horrible, horrible, horrible clog. Now, in my mind, I wouldn't have returned it, but I guess if somebody's new to 3D printing, something like this would be pretty daunting. Let me leave this here for a second, clean off my, and I'm going to have to heat my forceps up. So, keep going here. Part in the back is hard because it's away from the hot end, so it's not getting super hot, although it is just at least a little bit. Now, from the look of things, if I'm interpreting this right, it looks like a leak is from around the heat break. Now, I wonder if somebody tried to put in an all-metal hot end and that went poorly. Okay, so from the look of things, okay, I'm going to try getting a little bit more plastic out here. Okay, so I'm going to heat my forceps up, try to peel off some of this plastic. So I've let everything cool and have the heat break in. So that looks all correct. What I'm going to do is, I think while I have this all out, I'm going to change out the wheels here. I have some polycarbonate wheels So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So to start, I'm just going to take the heat break out. These were really loose, so that's probably not good either. This will give me a little bit more room to work. Just put these aside. And what I'm going to do while I have this out, let's go ahead. It's tight. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these screws here at the bottom, hot end, to make sure they actually line up. These screws aren't moving. It may be, I actually have some plastic in here. So I'm heating the hot end up, and we'll see what this does. Now what I've done is I've heated this up a little bit and then gotten these screws all tightened in there, nice and snug into the heat brake, and then I've tightened up the heat brake. I've also gone ahead and put in the nozzle. Now in order to do the nozzle correctly, I've turned it on and I turned this up to 240. I held, what you do is you hold the heat block, and then I have my ratchet, and I just ratcheted the nozzle in. It should be nice and tight. I made sure to heat everything up. Just going to put the sock on. So the nozzle's coming out here, so that's good. Now, with that all done, so I believe nozzle heat brake's good. So we're going to leave that like that. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go ahead and, first I'm going to use, and what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and take off the wheels. Just going to watch how this wheel, this is the one with concentric nut, how that's set up. So this little bit here is pointing in. So let's put this off to the side. Let's make sure I got the nut and the screw. Now the screw's not going to come out, so I'll just leave it there. And what I'm doing is I might as well change out these wheels while I'm here. So here's the wheels as they are, and let me show you what I'm going to replace these with. So here's the wheels I'm replacing them with. These are polycarbonate, and I'm using these on some other printers. Polycarbonate's tougher, and they've actually been really good for me on the other printer, so I'm going to go ahead and switch these out. So I'm going to start with this wheel right here, this screw, since it's already sort of messed up here. Wheel spinning good. So we're good to go there. Let's grab the next one. Like I said, I like these polycarbonate wheels, and I'll put a link to what I'm using. And I believe I got these probably 2 years ago now. And I put them on my printer. Did I put these on? CR6. So I have these on my CR6. This is just a simple upgrade. And in theory, I could put these wheels everywhere. I really just usually put it on this carriage. Mainly because it's just the one I typically have to get off. Those are spinning good. Now, with the third, with this third screw, let me think how I want to do this. I think I'm going to go ahead and put this up here, and then it's down a little bit. Put this here, and then I'll go ahead and run the everything through. This way I can make sure everything's sitting the way I want it. Okay, I've gone ahead and changed out this bottom screw. Mainly, I think the other one was stripped, so I was able to get it out. Also removed the fan. Now this is nice and tight. Feels like it moves all right. So that's pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is start putting all the pieces back together again. So here's the part cooling fan. So I'm going to go ahead and install all this. And we should be good to go. Yeah, everything's, as I said, feeling nice and snug. So like I said, I'm going to start with the part cooling fan. Get that in here. As I said, this video is probably going to be, hopefully you can hear me good. Already had like 3 problems with sound and everything else today. Guess the part cooling fan needs to be tightened a little bit more. Let's see if I can get these screws in good. One thing I've noticed with this is it is hard to get any screw on this thing tight. I'm thinking part of it is just quality control issues. I used 2 long screws, so let's see if I can find a shorter one. I said I'm really having trouble with just about every screw. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my hot end here. Turn everything around. This should be like this. Now, what I'm probably going to do in a future upgrade is take out, cut all these wires, and then put connectors in here. The heat break installed, everything feels tight and correct. So now I'm going to go ahead, slip everything around. The one thing I don't like is this is extremely tight, which I guess is okay, but it's just, again, very, very tight fit. Now, a future upgrade may be replacing the shroud. Okay. like everything's incorrectly here. I said the shroud's really tight, but this isn't too bad now. It might have been sitting incorrectly because of all the dang filament that was clogged. Now, one thing I'm going to do is let's cut this zip tie right here. So I have a little bit more degrees of freedom here with this Bowden tube. What I think I'm going to do is cut off probably about 10 to 15 centimeters here, right to about here. You can't see it too well, but there's filament staining the inside. So I just want a nice clean cut. Okay, so I have my filament cutter. I'm just going to, again, made a nice clean cut here. Now I'm going to push this down, and that feels like it's all the way down against the hot end. I want to find my clip here. I dropped it here somewhere. So I want to put the clip in to hold that, to hold the Bowden tube in. Now I'm not looking like I'm going to find it. So what I'm going to do is go to my replacement parts and just get the clip so I could slip it in there. Okay, so I have my Bowden clip, and I just want to slip this in. It turns out to get this Bowden clip in here, it's easier to do it without the shroud on. So I've gone ahead and taken the shroud off. I put the clip in there, so that means the Bowden tube. Bowden tube. Let me go ahead and push this a little bit more. Okay, so that's nice and snug down against the hot end and the nozzle. So let's go ahead and work this around. So the shroud's all on, hot end's all tight, wires all look good. This looks nice and tight and snug. And I've already upgraded the wheels, so that's good. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and reinstall the BL Touch. And screw in the BL Touch back in, or I'm sorry, CR Touch. Okay. And I'm sorry, this isn't the best angle. It's a little awkward how this is set up. Okay. That's all snug. Let's go ahead and plug this back in. So the BL Touch is plugged in. Let's remove that. And move my lights around a little bit. I've gone ahead and turned the printer back on. And let's go ahead and try a couple things. So let's try an auto home first. Now, hopefully the BL Touch will actually hit the bed for the nozzle now. So if you remember, our initial problem was the nozzle was actually down too far with all the plastic. And the BL Touch is going to hit first, or CR Touch. So that's looking good. Now, let's go ahead and try a couple other tests here. noticing, this is all looking good. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the filament holder on, and that way we can try running some filament through it and see what happens. So I now have the filament holder on here, and what I'm going to do is find an old roll of filament I have here and then go ahead and test this. So I have this roll of iBoss PLA Plus in yellow. I'm using that so that way hopefully you can see things. Ironically, filament in here that was a huge problem was yellow. So I'm probably tempting fate. So let's start with trying to load this up. Now, something else I'm going to do real quick is I notice in here, I'm seeing some little bit of filament. So my can of air, I'm just going to blow that out. And I'm doing that because probably when it got clogged, it started grinding filament. And so we had a little bit of extra filament in there, and go to 210. So it's heating. I'm just moving this up a little bit so that way we can see things. So moving it off the bed. So I'm going to pause and move my camera around and then load everything up. While this is heating, I'm going to fix something else here. I'm noticing this bed is loose. And the way you fix that is there's a nut down here on this side on both wheels, and you can use this to tighten things. So now the bed's maybe could go a little bit tighter. You just go down here on this nut and just give it a little bit of a turn. Yeah, now my bed's tighter. I'm going to do the back wheel just a little bit too. There we go. Okay, now I'm heated, so let me switch back around to the front view. So now my bed's actually much steadier, and any wobble I think is due to the it's more due to me shaking the actual printer because I'm not sure I'm totally level. But let me go ahead and move things around. Okay, so I have it at 210. Now 210 is my initial print temperature I use. So I'm going to come around here, and if you look, I have filament coming through. So I have the filament coming through, bed's heating, hot end's heating, all the movements correct, CR touch is working. So everything's looking really good. Just quick thoughts before I call it a day. So far for $130, and that's including tax, I'm really pleased with how this has gone. I'm definitely, if I sell this printer, going to be able to get my money out of it. And for me, it's been very worth it. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. I'll try to get back to you. I want to tell you I appreciate your time and thanks for hanging out with me. If you like what I'm doing, feel free to subscribe or share. And I'll look forward to talking to you again in the future. Thanks. Have a good day.